What's up, guys? Welcome back to Among the Fins. I am your host, Aaron, and today we're going to be talking about the album Voyager by the band Blueshift. Blueshift is from Alabama. They started about 2018. They are progressive metalcore, kind of classified as gens, but I wouldn't really put them classified under gens as much as I would just progressive metalcore. This is their first studio album. They have a couple singles, and this album was actually requested for me to do on one of my other videos. And if you guys have a request, don't forget to leave a comment below letting me know what it is, and I'll make it happen for you, new or old, whatever it is. But at the same time, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon. That way you get notified when I do upload these videos, because sometimes people will request videos, I upload them, and they never see it. But I'm pretty sure the guy will on this one because he's been asking for it. And I understand why he was requesting me to review Blueshift's album Voyager so much, because this is right up my alley with some of my favorite music. These guys come from a part of the country where another band by the name of Terra comes from, which happens to be my all-time favorite band currently, right next to Coheed and Cambria. And after learning that and hearing the sound that these guys had, just listening to a song here or there at first, I wasn't really sure how this review was going to go, specifically because I don't typically like bands that have that sound, just because Era does it so well. When I hear something else, I'm like, it's good, but it's not Era. They're not doing as good. For instance, when I reviewed Polaris, they have the same kind of sound. They're quite a bit different, but they have that general sound to them. I gave them a pretty decent rating. I think I rated them in like a 8.5 or something like that in that review, which is pretty damn solid, because I try not to be too biased. But at the same time, I didn't really enjoy it all that much. I recognize that it's a good album. I recognize that they're good musicians, good songwriting. All the songs were good. But at the same time, it just something I'll probably never go back to. I think the issue I have with it is that it's hard for bands to sound different. With this style of music, which it is very hard to explain because there's so many different layers to it, and there's so much different stuff going on. The guitar work is all over the place. The drum passages are just absolutely insane. There's high vocals, like screaming high vocals, with very just super low, distorted, hardcore vocals going on in this style of music. So it's kind of hard to explain exactly what's all going on and what this exact sound is without actually listening to it. But it's really hard to stand out. When you have music that's crazy all the time, sure, it might sound different from everybody else, but when you listen to an album all the way through, if everything's crazy, at the same time, everything's kind of the same. And since there is a lot going on, it's really hard to have everything come through clearly and perfectly on the mix, because you want everything, you want the listener to be able to hear everything clearly. So everything comes off being very compressed. There's a lot of bands I listen to that have this style of music, and it's very just compressed. It becomes very tiring on the ears. It's very hard to listen to. And I can confidently say that none of that was true with Voyager. They did a very good job on this album. The production is very flawless. It's very raw sounding at the same time as being crystal clear. Another thing is they sound so much like Era, which to me is normally a bad thing because I'm like, it's just an Era copy. But at the same time, these guys have their own fingerprints on their music. You can listen to it and it sounds like them, but it clearly isn't them. It is obviously Blueshift that you're listening to. And I know I'm beating a dead horse into the ground an extreme amount with all these Era references, but at the same time, this is their first album, so I don't really have anything older to compare their music to. Nothing, like they have a couple singles, but nothing to an extreme amount as like a full-length album. So I can only really compare them to their obvious influence. The intro track that this album starts off with has this kind of Tron sense to it, which normally it's kind of whatever. Intro songs are just kind of there. But at the same time, that sound and that atmosphere really sets the pace for the whole just tone of this album. Like, it's kind of weird to say that, but after listening to this thing all the way through a couple times, it really sums it up. Especially considering the track name, Embark, it is exactly like that. It sounds like you're flying through space. And then when the next song, which I'm gonna probably mispronounce because I'm horrible at pronouncing names, I'm assuming it's Sada Day. I don't know. Like I said, I'm horrible at it. But when it goes into the second song, it comes in just screaming abruptly, and then all the music comes in and it's complete chaos with just insane amount of crazy drum work going on and crazy guitar riffs. When the pre-chorus comes in, it abruptly becomes atmospheric, and it's a very, like I said, just abrupt transition, but it works very well. And then when it does that again, the first time it has clean vocals, and the second time it has the distorted vocals, and it just adds to like the epicness, and it builds up really well. And the vocals are drenched in passion mixed with the lyrics, which I connected with pretty well. The way how I took this song meaning is that there's someone who's in love, or a couple that's in love, and they slowly fall out of love with each other, and it's painful for them, and they're reminiscing about the old days, about when they were in love. And I'm sure we've all been through something like that, and it's pretty painful. Then you have a song like Cloak and Dagger, which I also believe to be about a relationship, but in this sense, one of the people in the relationship happens to be manipulative and fake, and there's even like a reference as a chameleon swiftly shifting. One thing I noticed about Cloak and Dagger is it actually starts out with the intro music that we got from Embark, and it happens to be like the 7th song on the album, so it's kind of a cool throwback. It's changed up just a little bit, but then when the verse comes in, just like how it went from Embark to Saw Today, it just comes in very violently. Guitar work has squealing arpeggios, and the song and the music feel very frantic in a way, which is kind of neat because the lyrics actually fit the music very well, especially like a lot of the references that it has going on. Cloak and Dagger also has the longest interlude solo thing, which is pretty dang epic. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Normally music like this, I don't really enjoy solos just because it's so crazy all the time. I just want to hear freaking sweet riffs. But the solo and just that whole part, the whole interlude, fit the song pretty well. The title track song on the album, Voyager, has a very spacey feel to it, which is cool because, you know, it's like you're floating through space. And it's got really good, just fantastic clean vocals. This whole album has really good vocals, but I felt like they stuck out a little bit more on Voyager. And then when the distorted vocals comes in, the imagery that I got from it was like being awakened from a dream. Voyager also had the most diversity to it between riffs and chorus. The chorus was really big and epic, and it kind of gave you some room to breathe a little bit, but there's just so many different textures and things going on throughout the whole song, and it literally felt like a voyage. Normally I try to pick just one favorite song on this album, but it was really hard on this one just because they're all so good. So I had to pick 2, and that would have to be Undertow and Terra. And yeah, I love them both equally. The intro for Undertow has a sound clip of waves, and it has this guitar work going on. It's just very, very beautiful and gentle. Once the song picks up and we get into the verse, the distorted vocals come in with this very high guitar riff, and the mixture from the very deep distorted vocals and the high guitar work going on, it's such a cool contrast, and it works so well. Like if you just heard one without the other, it just wouldn't feel right. And the rhythm that they have throughout the entire song is absolutely perfect. Even the really brutal and heavy parts felt gentle, except for like once we get to the bridge and it gets pretty breakdowny. But honestly, like the whole song, even the screaming parts, like I said, it just felt gentle, like the beginning felt. And this song actually felt the most like an era song, but like I said, it has their own fingerprints all over it. And my other favorite song, Terra, is kind of hard to explain. It's just starts out very heavy and then out of nowhere becomes peaceful. And the best way how I can explain it is it's like going skydiving. You jump out of the plane, there's all this wind in your face, it's extremely loud, you can't even breathe, you can't see that well, your eyes are all squinty, and then you pull the parachute, and then you get yanked up really hard, and then you're just floating, and everything's peaceful. And then out of nowhere, it gets all super heavy again for some reason. Maybe somebody cut the cords on your parachute. And the mixture with the calming vocals and the fantastic lyrics, it's just such a good contrast between heavy and calm. So yeah, it's like parachuting. I also enjoyed the song Eternia, which I believe to be about oppression. And the song starts out with this very soft, gentle intro again, but this time it has like this underwater kind of feel to it, which fits the depression aspect of it pretty well, I believe. The second verse of Eternia probably has my favorite riff out of the entire album, and it sums up exactly why I love this style of music. It just has so much dynamic to it, and because of that, and it's so fast and all over the place, and there's so much going on, it's really hard to just wrap your mind around what it is exactly you're even hearing. And the song Zenith probably has the most unique intro out of all of them. It starts out with very quick drums, and where you're used to hearing clean vocals, now you have distorted vocals, and it's kind of sounds like they're being like screamed into a void or into an abyss. The fast-paced drum work joined with the sporadic riffage and the mixture of clean and dirty vocals, it makes the whole song kind of hypnotizing in a way too. The only two songs on the album that I felt like were less than the other ones, I didn't really dislike them, but I didn't find myself enjoying them quite as much, were the songs Vertigo, which is the closing song, and the song that I'm probably going to butcher the name out of is Jamais Vu, maybe? I believe Jamais Vu is about becoming someone you don't really recognize, and because of that, you're kind of treating a loved one differently, maybe? I'm not really sure. It was kind of hard for me to make out the lyrics on that. At least that's kind of what it meant to me. At least that's how I interpreted it. But as far as the music goes, it didn't really, for some reason, do a whole lot for me, except for the last 2 minutes, which I found the last 2 minutes of the song to be absolutely fantastic. But before that, it didn't really have that sparkle to it. And the same thing with Vertigo. It has good riffs and all that, but it just, I guess the only way how to describe it is it didn't really have that sparkle to it. It's a good song. It's a really good closing song. But as far as the other 8 songs on the album, those 2 just weren't on the same level, to me at least, as the rest of them. Because there's so many different elements to each song, it's actually really hard to pick out songs that you actually don't like when it comes to music like this. But there are certain elements to different songs that I found myself noticing that I didn't quite enjoy, or things that I kind of got tired of after listening to this album a couple times. For instance, I found that when Blueshift has slower parts to songs, specifically in intros, but I found it happening a couple of times in some of the middle parts of songs when they decided to bring it down a notch and make it slow and make it more atmospheric. They kind of did the same thing all the time musically. They had just this like plucking guitar with very smooth drums and clean vocals, which it sounds good, but at the same time, it just kind of made it feel like they were doing the same style and the same sort of thing in every song, which isn't really true because all the more aggressive parts, those felt different to me, but it was just those slow parts when it did that. But now I'm going to contradict myself here, because all those slow parts I felt like fit the whole theme of the album. Like I felt like because they were doing that very specifically, it felt like I said, the beginning part had that kind of Tron-y kind of intro to it that made it feel like you were embarking into space. And I felt like those little slow parts, they just added to that atmosphere. Like if they were any different, I feel like they would have taken away from the theme of the album. So even though I found it, at least for me, being a drawback, I can't deny that it fit the story still. So with all that said, I got to give Voyager by Blueshift a 8.8 out of 10. I enjoyed this album quite a bit. In fact, quite a bit more than I thought I was going to. In fact, I can't recommend and I can't give enough praise to the songs Undertow and Terra. Those songs are just, they're just perfect. Next level, top notch, A1, great freaking songs. But I want to know what you guys think. These guys are fairly new and they don't have a whole lot of listens and they don't have a whole lot of followers. So I doubt hardly any of you guys have listened to them before. So go ahead and give them a listen and let me know what you would rate it. At least listen to Undertow, Terra, and even the songs I said I dislike, and let me know what you would rate it and what you think. And if you enjoyed this review and this video, don't forget to give it a like. If you didn't enjoy this review or this video, go ahead and give it a dislike, but let me know why. Maybe you've listened to Blueshift before and you're like, these guys totally suck, they deserve a 0. Or you've listened to them and you're like, no, they deserve a 10 out of 10. But let me know why. Like I said, this is a safe place where we could talk about all the things we love and hate. So don't be afraid to let me have it. I hope you guys all have a good rest of your day or night or evening, whenever you happen to be watching this. Please stay safe. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on out in the world. And I will talk to you guys next time.
I was trying to make it, lying